Okay, our channel is not for entertainment, but today we are here to remember something powerful that many people quietly forget. A dream is not luxury, it is a shield. So, welcome to our channel, a space dedicated into inner growth, clarity, and the quiet strength that allows us to live with purpose in the noisy world. So here we don't just talk about success, we talk about how to remain steady when life becomes uncertain, how to stay true when temptation becomes overwhelming. And in this live session, our theme is simple yet incredibly demanding, using dreams to resist temptation. Because temptation is everywhere. It appears as comfort, such as shortcuts, as immediate rewards that slowly pull us away from who we truly want to become. So how does a person stay unwavering? How does someone hold on to a dream when reality is heavy, when pressure is real, and when giving up would be so much easier? And to explore this, we are going to share the story of a writer, the writer Xuemo. And for a long period of his life, he was not living in comfort or recognition. He was carrying responsibility, real, tangible, unavoidable responsibility. He had to support his wife, provide for his family, and ensure that his child could receive an education. Every day was not a question of inspiration, it was a question of survival. And yet, in the middle of that pressure, something did not collapse, something did not give in. And that something was his dream. So, let's walk into the story not as observer, but as people asking ourselves a deeper question. When life tests us, what do we choose to hold on to? So from the moment he decided to write Desert Rights to the day it was finally published, 40 years passed. During those 12 years, he had to ensure his own survival while also supporting his family. So even when he appeared to live somewhat withdrawn from the world, he was in fact carrying an immense pressure just to stay alive. And for a very long time, he had to support his wife, provide for his son's education, and take full responsibility for his parents' basic living needs and medical care. The debts incurred during his younger brother's illness were also repaid by him. After his brother passed away, he took care of his nephew, and in the blink of an eye, 20 years went by. And whenever relatives around him encountered difficulties, he would still offer financial support whenever he could. In the beginning, he was not yet a professional writer, and his monthly income was only a little over 200 yuan RMB. Sometimes he didn't even have enough money to buy food. So under such circumstances, for a writer to persist in what he wanted to hold on to was already extremely difficult. But the most difficult part was not just the survival, it was that he still had to face the suffering and struggles that life placed before him. So what is meant by a demonic trap? In the book on the deathless diamond heart, He once described a kind of a demonic spell. It refers to something that confuses you, makes you lose your sense of direction, and creates the illusions of a destination ahead. In the story, Kamarja was subjected to two kinds of curses. One was a killing curse, meant to take his life. The other was the demonic trap, meant to take away his wisdom life. And after making a mistaken choice, he entered a world called a sacred land. But in reality, it was a demonic trap that would felt just as real as the real world. Inside it, there was a woman who called herself Naigema. He married her, lived a life in a world of dual cultivation, and even had a pair of children with her. Until one day, their son suddenly died. His wife, overwhelmed by extreme pain, reacted in a way that made him suddenly realize something. He realized that the woman he believed to be Nagama was not a true Niguma, because someone who has attained ultimate wisdom would not suffer from attachment. At that very moment, the illusion shattered. He left his wife and set out once again on the path of seeking truth. But by then, 22 years had already passed. Later, this story was selected by the magazine Chinese Writer. The symbolic meaning within it serves as a kind of awakening for many people today. And in this era, many people are trapped by something very similar to this demonic spell. It could be money, fame, reputation, emotions, or material desires. Once you are trapped by it, you begin to forget what you are truly meant to do. In order not to fall into that kind of demonic trap, he said that besides cultivating the mind and reading, he also recorded every small flaw of his in a diary. Every negative thought, every unhealthy tendency. He described these as tools, like surgical knives used to dissect his own soul. Very often he would cut deeply into himself, placing all his habits and weaknesses in front of the mirror of his heart, forcing himself to see them clearly. Over time, through this process, he was finally able to overcome himself. At that time, there was no teacher by his side to guide him, so he had no choice but to examine himself constantly. At the same time, he kept looking for reference points in the people around him, observing their actions and using them to correct his own. In a way, it is similar to what Confucius once said. Among any three people working together, there is always one who can be my teacher. It is said, 三人行必有我师. So among any three people working together, there is always one who can be my teacher. He also said that a true person of faith is not afraid of adversity, because in their eyes, adversity is the best tool to refine and test themselves. Only in difficult situations can you truly see whether the person has real faith or not. And if you find that you have not yet transformed or elevated yourself, there is no need to be afraid. You simply continue to refine yourself to rise to that level step by step. So, because of your faith belongs to you and only you can decide what you truly believe in. So even if at times your heart feels weak, you still need to keep moving forward, keep rising, and never give up. As long you do not give up, one day your heart will become strong. In fact, I want to share with you that life is, in many ways, an illusory game. Just like the computer games many children play. Its purpose is not what we usually think. It is to help you elevate your mind during the process of living, to overcome yourself, to make yourself a little less calculating, a little less obsessed with gains and losses, and a little less troubled. And if you fail in a certain attempt, it doesn't matter. If you have read the Deathless Diamond Heart, you will notice that even when the protagonist reaches a very high level, he still fails again and again in countless tests. So every time he fails, he feels regret, but then he regains the courage to seek truth and move forward again, accepting the next test that life brings. So I think we should be like this too, because one day all of us will face death. Hello, I see so many new friends here. Thank you for your time and thank you for coming by. Please subscribe to our channel. Thank you so much. So all of us will face death. And when that moment comes, everything we have will disappear. I will come back. So every all of us will face death. And when that moment comes, everything we have will disappear. Friends, family bonds, love, wealth, career, responsibilities, none of it will belong to us anymore. At that point, even if you don't want to let go, you will have to let go. So then why not, while we are still alive, learn to let go of a little earlier? Why not give our hearts a little more space and allow ourselves to feel a little more ease, a little more freedom? So beyond the spirit of chivalry, I also want to share that his early practice of martial arts was meant to strengthen both the body and the mind. Because without a strong body and mind, a person cannot accomplish much. If someone falls ill early in life, the range of what they can do naturally becomes very limited. He not only admired the chivalrous actions of those martial arts, but also deeply respected their character and moral cultivation. For example, someone like the He Wanyi would never use martial arts as a means to make money, but would only teach those who he believed had good character. Many martial arts masters of the past were like this. In times of crisis, they were able to hold on to their conscience, their integrity, and their dignity, refusing to do things that would betray their values of personal gain. Just like in the film The Grandmaster, when his homeland was occupied, he lost all his wealth and property, yet he never bowed his head. Even when his children were starving, he still upheld his national dignity. This kind of backbone, the refusal to bend for even a small gain, is something that today's utilitarian society deeply lacks. These martial arts not only trained their bodies and skills, but also cultivated immense inner strength, always pursuing something beyond material gain. If more people carry this kind of spirit, many of the negative phenomena in today's society simply would not exist. As I mentioned earlier, during the years he studied under a martial arts master, he would wake up very early every morning. After morning practice, he would go to the training ground and swing a kettlebell hundreds of times before continuing with boxing exercises. That kettlebell weighed over 10 kilograms. Although it was exhausting, he persisted because he clearly knew what he wanted to do with his life. And that sense of aspiration became the driving force that kept him moving forward. He needed a strong body to support that great aspiration. And I think this is very important when a person truly defines their dreams and understand what they are here to do in this life. The world begins to lose its power to tempt them because those things start to feel unrelated, almost illusory, not worth pursuing. And when that happens, the question of holding on or letting go no longer even arises. Instead, a kind of quiet but powerful determination appears, a strength that allows a person to find meaning and even joy in a life that others might find dull or difficult. So, I want to share this with you. True stability and inner strength actually come from a powerful aspiration. And if you truly want to accomplish something, then you must continuously hold on to your inner direction. And if one day you suddenly notice that you've started to hesitate or waver in certain things, you need to become alert immediately. Because that means your mind is already changing. Desire has entered and it is interfering with you, quietly influencing your direction. So you need to observe carefully to see what is feeding and strengthening those desires, and then decisively cut them off without hesitation. You have to remember this. The outside world is not your real enemy. What is truly dangerous is the excuses and justifications you create for your own desires. If you lack awareness, if you keep following those excuses or being pulled away by distractions, one day you will suddenly realize that you've lost yourself. But if you are able to notice that you are lost, that actually means you are not completely lost yet. At that moment, you just need to return to the right path as soon as possible. So, who are the truly unfortunate ones, the pathetic ones? That they are the ones who once had dreams but then became comfortable in a mediocre life and felt that it was good enough. Because their dreams have already been dissolved by that mediocrity. So you have to keep reminding yourself of your dream, your deeper aspiration, your direction. Do not allow vague and confusing things to enter your heart. The moment you notice them, clear them away. Tell yourself clearly, this is illusion, this is a trap, I cannot fall for it. When you can do that, your mind will not fall into chaos, and your upward aspiration will grow stronger and stronger. And naturally, you will develop a deep and powerful focus. Hi, I see some new friends here. First, please subscribe to our channel. And today we are sharing the importance of the dream and your aspiration. So when you keep remembering your dream, your deeper aspiration, and your direction, you naturally won't allow random and confusing things to enter your mind. The moment you notice them, you clear them away and remind yourself, this is illusion, this is a trap, and I cannot fall for that. When you do that, your mind won't become chaotic, and your upward aspiration will grow stronger, and you will gain powerful focus. And I think this is something he started doing very early in life. When he was still in his teens, he had already begun to plan his life very clearly. What we should do, what he should do, what would benefit his dream, and what would harm it. He made these distinctions very clearly. For example, he chose to read, to observe the world, to practice martial arts, to write in his journal. But he would not fall into distractions like indulgent entertainment or excessive films and television. Even if he occasionally failed to follow his own standards, he would reflect on himself in his diary and try to correct it. I will answer your question later. After sharing the story of Xuemo's dream. Okay. Hello, welcome. So even if he occasionally failed to follow his own standards, he would reflect on himself in his diary and try to correct it. Now, many young people also have dreams and seem to pursue them, but they give themselves too many excuses. For example, some people tell themselves, I want to understand the world, I want to understand human nature, and then they spend large amounts of time watching animations, shows, movies, filling their life with a kind of scattered and unfocused lifestyle. Or they tell themselves, I can learn a lot by talking to people. So they spend a lot of time socializing, but deep down, they actually know the truth. Sometimes it's because of loneliness, sometimes it's a desire to escape, and sometimes it's simply laziness or the pursuit of comfort and pleasure. They use these things to fill themselves, and once these things occupy the space of their mind, they slowly forget what they are truly supposed to do. Of course, good films and meaningful conversations can also inspire reflection and wisdom. But the key question is, do you have awareness? Do you have discipline? Are you truly learning and grow? Or are you simply consuming and escaping? Are you facing life or avoiding what you don't want to face? And most importantly, are these things affecting your mind? Because everything passes quickly. Events pass, emotions pass, but if your direction becomes unclear, that is when the real problem begins. So I want to continue this part. Once your habits begins to influence your mind, you will need to spend much more effort to cleanse it again. Some people, after getting used to a lazy lifestyle, slowly become restless, more irritable, more driven by desire, and even more unaware. Hi, what's the topic today? Today's topic is about your dream, your deep aspiration. So keep follow up, and you can subscribe to our channel. We are doing the live stream at different times every day. So some people, after getting used to a lazy lifestyle, slowly becomes restless, more irritable, more driven by desire, and even more unaware. These changes are often very subtle. Sometimes they don't even notice them, and even when they do, they don't take them seriously. Because the human tendency toward comfort is quietly controlling them. And at that point, everything still feels reversible. But later, something begins to change. Those who were once patient find themselves becoming easily angered. Those who were once focused become scattered. Those who were once selfless become selfish. Those who were once resilient become easily irritated. And what is even more concerning is that an ordinary, comfortable life combined with negative influences can quietly erode a person without them realizing it. Until they are no longer sensitive, no longer compassionate, no longer able to think for others, and instead only care for their own feelings and gains and losses, no matter how much knowledge or insight they once had, it can no longer guide their heart. Because unhealthy habits have already corrupted it. So I think this is very important. Before a person has developed enough focus and wisdom, it is best to stay away from environments that are filled with excessive desire. Otherwise, it is very easy to be influenced and polluted by them. And also, do not casually indulge in things that seem harmless on the surface, because over time they can quietly dissolve your direction and your purpose. So we really need to protect the purity of our inner world. Do you agree? Yeah, of course, you have to read a book by Xuemo. So, again, we need to protect the purity of our inner world. So, so okay, the message is give some reading tips. Reading tips. So first, so how many books are you reading, like every month? Where can I read his book from? Okay, you can find Xuemo's work on Amazon. Xuemo's works are available on Amazon. You can search for Xuemo, Xuemo, and you will find many of Xuemo's works, and you can choose one that most interests you. Hello, if you are new here, please subscribe to our channel. So the viewer's question, some reading tips, and so if you don't try to read too many books at once. If you are you don't read too much, and choose one book that truly resonates with you. And because reading is not a race, it's a process of understanding. And take your time to feel what the author is trying to say, and reflect while you read. And the most important thing is transcend reading into action. And even one small change in your life, daily life, is more powerful than just understanding. So, and you can also really read the good books, like Xuemo's books. And every time you read again, you will see something new. And finally, read with your heart, not just your mind. Because the purpose of reading is not just to know more, but to grow. Hey, how do you know that Mr. Xuemo is currently in New York? How do you know that? Yeah, you Googled him. Yes, he has. Mr. Xuemo has written over 80 titles with over 200 editions and have been translated into 28 languages. You will pay him a visit. What visit? That's on the razor. Uh, what do you do? Hi. Hello. So what do you do? Why you pay him a visit? And what event can you organize? No, it's just the hot water too hot, so I need to open the lid. What's my name? It's not important. We are just the carrier and like the bridge of Xuemo mythology. So, so Beth and Marisa, are you interested in Xuemo culture and want to organize some event? Treya, yeah, it's hard. It's hard. It's hard to focus on the dream and resist the temptation. Yes, yeah, it's hard. So, so you are in Manhattan, and what do you do, and why do you want to visit Xuemo? So I just shared the story, and the story about using a dream to resist temptation. So, what do you mean before the week ends? I don't know. I don't quite get you. What do you mean? So, different philosophies, different mindset, different preferences. Yeah. And there is only one ultimate truth, right? So I think what makes Xuemo's story powerful is not just what he went through, it's what he chose again and again under pressure. Because temptation is not something dramatic, it rarely appears as something obviously wrong. Most of the time, it looks harmless, it looks like comfort, like rest, like just this once. It looks like something you deserve, and that's exactly why it's dangerous. Because it doesn't pull you away all at once. It moves you away slowly, quietly, without you noticing. So when we talk about using dreams to resist temptation, we are not talking about finding something outside of us. We are talking about holding something inside of us. A clear direction, a deep commitment, a reason that is strong enough to say no. Because the truth is, if your dream is vague, temptation will always win. So, if your dream is vague, temptation will always win. Yeah, thank you for reminding. Hi, Vivek. Hello, welcome. So, if your direction is unclear, anything can pull you away. But when your dream becomes clear, something changes. And you don't need to fight temptation anymore. You simply lose interest in it. So because you know where you are going, and I think this is the most important part. So maybe instead of asking, how do I become more disciplined? We can ask something deeper. What is strong enough in my life that I am willing to protect it? Because once you find that, discipline becomes natural and focus becomes effortless. And your life begins to move in a very different direction. So take a moment not to rush, not to force an answer, just quietly ask yourself, what is my dream? And is it strong enough to guide my life? Hi, welcome our old friend. So I also want to share something personal that truly changed the direction of my life through reading the works of Xuemo. I gradually found answers to the deepest existential questions I had been carrying for a long time. Questions about why we are here, what life is really for, and what it means to live meaningfully. And I realized that meaning is not something you wait to discover, but something you consciously chose to embody. So, and ultimately, there is actually no meaning of the whole existence or your life. So, meaning is not something you wait to discover, but something you consciously choose to embody. From that point, something inside me became very clear and very steady. I no longer felt lost in the same way because I knew what my life was moving toward, and what I chose was very simple, but also very firm. I hope that through my own life, through my own voice, I can help carry meaningful culture and authentic wisdom to more people. At a certain point, I realized that this is not about me anymore. It is not about me, not about personal identity, but about self expression in the usual sense. I see myself more as a vessel, a channel through which something meaningful can continue to flow. A bridge that allows good culture, good values, and deeper understanding to reach more hearts. And if through this process, even one person feels a little more clarity, a little more warmth, a little more light, then I feel that it is already meaningful. Because in the end, what we are really doing is not just sharing information. We are helping to light something inside another human being. Yes, all your existential questions can be answered in Xuemo's book. So you can search for Xuemo's book and read Xuemo and find your life answers. Thank you for your support. Thank you. So what we are doing is not just sharing information or selling more books. We are helping to light something inside another human being. And that light, once it appears, can continue to spread in ways we cannot even predict. This is what I received from these teachings, and this is also what I hope to pass on. My life, in many ways, was renewed and illuminated through this culture, and now I simply wish to let that light continue. And I think one of the most fortunate thing for me is that I didn't just read these ideas. I actually stepped into this path and became part of the Xuemo community. I had the opportunity to join the team around Xuemo and to experience these teachings not as concepts, but as a lived reality. What moved me the most is that he doesn't just talk about culture, he embodies it. So through Xuemo's own life, Xuemo is a Chinese writer, by the way. So through his daily actions, he shows us what it really means to let culture become a way of living. It is not something distant, not something abstract, but something that can be practiced in every small moment. And what we are guided to do every single day is to integrate these values into our lives, to practice them in how we think, how we speak, how we act. And in this process, something very important happens. It is not only about doing something meaningful in the world, it is about continuously refining and elevating ourselves. Because everything we do shares a very clear and unified direction to benefit others. To benefit others not in an abstract way, but in real, practical ways that can bring value to people's lives. And I think this is something very important to say clearly. Benefiting others is not separate from self-growth. Bye. Thank you for your kind message, kind words. Doing a great job. Thank you. So, benefiting others is not separate from self-growth. In fact, the deeper meaning of this path is that while you are doing things, You are also reshaping yourself. You are rebuilding your character, refining your inner structure, and becoming a more complete human being. And honestly, this part is even more important than the work itself. It is not also important, it is the foundation of everything. Because without a refined and grounded character, no matter how much you do, it will not carry real depth or lasting value. So the real practice is not just in what we achieve, but in who we become while we are doing it. Any, do you have any um, opinion to share? And what do you think after listening to the stories and my personal experience? You can share your opinion in the chat section. Yes. So why I take out the book Reclaim the Throne of Your Heart, because this story and today's topic reminds me and brings me to one of the most important chapters in Reclaim the Throne of Your Heart. Thank you. A chapter that has stayed with me and that I return to again and again. And every time I come back to it, I don't feel like I'm just reading a book. I feel like I'm being reminded of something essential. And it grounds me, it clears me, and it brings me back to my direction. And I really want to share this part with you. Not just to explain it, but to let you hear it directly. So I'm going to read this chapter for you now. So take a moment and slow down a little and just listen together. So I will share the book Reclaim the Throne of Your Heart by Xuemo. Um, my favorite chapter is Strengthen Your Faith with the Power of a Sacred Vow. Okay, let's listen together. When one embarks on the path of meditational practice, the mind is often immature and faith lacks depth. Obstacles inevitably arise. Although one has forsaken many worldly pleasures, the vision of liberation remains distant. With no trace of hope or joy in the meditational practice, life at this stage may feel desolate, cold, monotonous, monotonous, and full of suffering. There is no guiding light, no one to offer insight, and it feels as though the feet are sinking in the sense of doubt, making each step a heavy burden. This is a deeply painful phase, akin to thirsting for water in a desert with no oasis in sight, or like chasing after a beloved who remains ever distant and cold. Despair begins to take root in dreams. One longs for light and enlightenment, yet no warmth or radiance appears. The heart feels as if it has fallen into the snow. In these moments of isolation, one might ask, I have pursued this path with all my heart, yet all I have found is loneliness and suffering. Do I now regret it? Why is my favorite chapter? Listen first, I think you can feel something. And if you got a job, so you're still a student. Okay, let's continue. So I just shared the first paragraph. Oh, how old are you and where are you? In India or so what is being described here is not just a stage in practice, and it is something that almost every person will encounter at some point in life. The moment you have already given up many distractions, you are trying to move towards something deeper, something more meaningful, but you don't yet see result. You don't see light. You don't feel clarity. And instead, what you feel is emptiness, loneliness, and even doubt. And this is where many people turn back. They begin to question everything. Was this path wrong? Was my effort meaningless? Did I give up too much for nothing? And slowly, temptation returns. Not loudly, but gently, inviting you back into comfort, back into distraction, back into something easier to feel. So maybe this is exactly where the sacred vow becomes real. And you can still choose to walk forward. Oh, you're studying in UK. Which university? Purdue. I haven't heard about that yet. Um, Last month, I was in UK for the whole month, and we actually have dialogues and talks in 4 different universities there, like the University of Bath, University of Bristol, University of London, and the Oxford University. So, and you can also share your any ideas or opinions here and share your experience here. Okay, let's continue. If he succumbs to regret in this moment, he cannot continue his meditational practice. This is known as the retreat of regret, the great adversary of the spiritual path. Just as when one wholeheartedly pursues a beloved who remains distant, perseverance may one day win her heart. But if he abandons the pursuit midway, the possibility of union is forever lost. The same holds for spiritual meditational practice. Therefore, when you embark on the path of meditational practice, you must make a sacred vow. Pledging to attain a certain goal, you should regard the Dharma and the truth as the object of your lifelong devotion, akin to being in love, vowing to follow her to the ends of the earth, whether in sleep or wakefulness, no matter what you are engaged in, you must cultivate this same ardor. This unwavering concentration and this profound passion, with such a goal, such focus, and such fervor, you will not easily fall into regret, nor will easily abandon the path. So every day we wake up very early in the morning, we will read something, and the great vow is actually included in it. Let me see if I can check someone and share with you. Okay, let me share with you what we are reading every morning here. Let me check. Oh, where it is? Where is it? So, okay, let me share what we are reading every morning. So, remain true to our original aspiration and stay committed to our mission. Embrace all streams like the sea and act with integrity and practical wisdom. Hold firm to our convictions and advance with courage and diligence. Stand together through challenges and create the future together. Our mission is to make culture a way of life, to strengthen ourselves while uplifting others, to cultivate integrity of character, to build bridges for Chinese culture, and to bring Chinese civilization to the world. Our mission and values uphold a vision of global harmony, shared cultural prosperity, unity between humanity and nature, harmonious coexistence, living by the way in the world, reverence for heaven and love for people, recognition of the oneness of life, and peace with mutual benefit for all. This is what we are reading every day, every morning. So let's continue. You must realize that the world is impermanent, and life itself is but a grand illusion. When impermanence strikes, nothing can be relied upon except faith. For all things arise from causes and conditions and are in a state of constant flux. Therefore, you must make a profound vow and use the power of that vow to strengthen your faith in meditational practice. Even if you are reduced to poverty and become a beggar, you will not abandon your faith nor retreat from the path. Even if your life is on the verge of ending, you will continue with the meditational practice without coveting wealth or comfort. Even if, after death, your body is discarded in the wilderness like an animal, and you receive no grand funeral, you will harbor no doubt in your faith. So what is being pointed to here is something fundamental. The nature of the world is impermanence. Nothing stays. Everything is everything is moving, changing, dissolving, and life itself in many ways is like an illusion. Not because it is meaningless, but because nothing in it can be held onto forever. And when you really see this, something shifts inside you. You stop trying to rely on things that are unstable because you know they will change. And in that moment, the only thing you can truly rely on is something within you. And here it is described as faith, a deep, grounded, unwavering trust in the path you have chosen. Because everything else is dependent on conditions. They arise and they pass, they cannot hold you. So what do? You make a vow, a deep one, a real one, and you use that vow to strengthen your faith. Not when things are easy, but especially when things fall apart. Even if life becomes difficult, even if you lose stability, even if you fall into poverty, the direction inside you does not change. Even if everything external disappears, you don't retreat. Even if your life is reaching its end, you still continue walking this path. Not chasing comfort, not chasing gain, but simply because you have chosen it. So I think the most powerful part is this, even beyond life itself, even beyond how you are seen by others, even beyond whether you are recognized or remembered, your faith does not waver. Because at that point, this is no longer about outcome. It is about truth. And it is about who you are. And I think this is where the idea of using your dream to resist temptation reaches its deepest level. Because when your vow reaches this level, temptation no longer has any place to enter. Right? Not because you are forcing yourself to resist, but because there is nothing left that can pull you away. Okay, let's continue. This is true faith, the very source of liberation. Hence, it is said that faith is the mother of merit. Without faith, there can be no liberation. This faith, of course, also encompasses self-confidence. Without self-confidence, even if you were to attain enlightenment one day, you would not dare to believe it. Without self-confidence, you are always on the verge of the retreat. Just as some are deeply passionate about writing and possess certain talents, yet lack self-confidence and believe they will never succeed. They fail to persist and thus forfeit the possibility of becoming a writer. Okay, let's continue. To cultivate unwavering faith, you must make a vow, and it is best to make a grand vow. For only with a vast heart and a great vow can you summon great power. A great vow is a form of ambition. What is ambition? Ambition is a state of mind that transcends one's original position and identity. It arises when we are no longer content with the present condition and seek something higher. For example, when a farmer no longer wishes to remain a farmer, he has ambition. So now it becomes very clear how faith is actually cultivated. If you want your faith to become unwavering, then you must make a vow. Not just any vow, but a great vow. Because only when your heart is vast and when your vow is great can you generate a great kind of power. So there are two kinds of ambition. One is the ambition for self-interest, the other is the ambition for the benefit of the greater world. The ambition for self-interest is what the world typically calls ambition, pursuits of wealth, fame, power, and status. The ambition for benefiting the public, however, is known as aspiration. For example, Tolstoy sought to transform the world through literature and other means. And Confucius aimed to spread benevolence to save humanity. This is aspiration, also called bodhisattva, the awakened mind. So serving the greater good is the highest form of self-interest. The ultimate self-interest in the process of benefiting others, we cultivate and perfect our own character, elevating our souls. Through this process, we transcend from ordinary beings to great virtues, and from mortals to Buddhas. The one who exemplifies the greatest aspiration is Siddhartha Bodhisattva, whose vow is as vast as the cosmos. I will not attain Buddhahood until hell is empty. Such is the magnitude of a truly profound vow. Similarly, you too can embrace the four immeasurable minds. May all sentient beings find happiness and its causes. May all sentient beings be freed from suffering and its causes. May all sentient beings never be parted from the joy beyond suffering. And may all sentient beings dwell in boundless equanimity, free from attachment and aversion. Hi, I see several new friends here. Please subscribe to our channel. Thank you so much. So this part brings everything to a very high and expensive level. So what is the highest form of self-interest? It is to serve the greater good, because at the deepest level, true self-interest is not separate from benefiting others. It is the very process through which we refine ourselves, perfect our character, and elevate our inner being. And through this process, something fundamental changes. We move beyond being limited, ordinary individuals into something greater, something more expansive, something more complete. And this is described as a transformation from the ordinary to the virtuous, from the limited to the awakened. So, let's continue. However, simply making a vow without corresponding action or making mundane wishes, such as seeking promotion or wealth, holds no real meaning. Our vows must be those that benefit sentient beings, and they must be supported by concrete actions to be truly meaningful. Hello, welcome. Let me know where you're from. So a vow by itself is not enough if it remains only as words or just a feeling in a moment. Then it does not carry real power. So and the same applies to ordinary wishes. If we are seeking, what we are seeking is only promotion, wealth, or personal gain, then even if we call it a vow, it does not hold deep meaning because it is still confined within the small self. So what kind of vow truly matters? It is a vow that goes beyond the self, a vow that includes others, a vow that is connected to the well-being of more than just you. But even that is not enough because a vow must be lived. It must be supported by action, real, concrete, consistent action. Otherwise, it remains an idea, something that sounds meaningful but does not transform anything. And I think this is where everything becomes very clear again. A real vow is not something you say once, it is something you do every day. In small choices, in how you treat others, in what you prioritize, in whether you stay on your path or drift away. And over time, your life itself becomes the expression of that vow. Not something separate, but something embodied. All transcendental vows in the Dharma cannot generate merit or blessing unless they manifest in actions that serve and benefit sentient beings within the worldly realm. For merit and blessings arise only from your deeds. You will cultivate blessings only if your actions sow the seeds of those blessings. How can blessings arise if you do not create them? Blessings cannot come from idle dreams or slumbering intentions. So, no matter how lofty or transcendent the vow may sound, it cannot generate any real merit or blessing unless it is expressed through real actions in this world, especially actions that truly serve and benefit others. Because merit and blessing do not come from ideas, they arise from what you do. They are the direct result of your actions. If your actions are aligned with goodness, then naturally you are planting the seeds of blessing. And over time, those seeds will grow. But if there are no such actions, there are no seeds. How can there be any harvest? This is very simple, but also very easy to ignore. Because many people stay at the level of intention. They feel something is meaningful, they agree with it, they even feel inspired by it, but they don't act. And without action, nothing actually changes. So it is said very clearly, blessings do not come from imagination. They do not come from idle dreams. They do not come from intentions that never move. They come only from what you actually do and from the choices you make and the effort you give. Okay, continue. Therefore, we must make great aspirations and sow virtuous seeds to harvest righteous fruits. In truth, no being or thing can have a beginning without an end, and no one has ever escaped the impermanence of life. Even if you refuse to detach now, you will be compelled to when your body dissolves. Holding on does not guarantee possession. Even emperors and generals who once possessed glory, wealth, beauty, and kingdoms, so they slip away upon their death, changing hands as all things must. The external world is in perpetual flux, and so is your inner self. Without letting go, liberation remains unreachable. Clinging is the very root of samsara, trapping us in an endless cycle of suffering. So that is why we say we must make great aspiration and through virtuous actions to allow those aspirations to bear meaningful results. Because ultimately, everything in life follows a simple truth. Nothing that begins can avoid ending. No one has ever escaped impermanence, and whether you are willing or not, whether you accept it or resist it, there will come a moment when everything must be released. Even if right now you feel like you can hold on to things, that holding does not mean possession, because nothing stays. Think about those who once had everything: power, wealth, beauty, status, even entire kingdoms. And yet, when their lives ended, all of it slipped away, transferred, dissolved, returned to the flow of change. Because the external world is never still, it is always shifting. And the same is true within us. Our thoughts change, our emotions change, our sense of self changes. What happens when we refuse to let go? We suffer because we are trying to hold on to something. They cannot be held, and this is described very clearly. Cleaning is the root of the cycle. Okay, let's continue. Why do many people engage in meditational practice for long periods, yet their mind and nature remain unchanged? It is because they cannot let go. Without letting go, one cannot perceive their true mind and nature. This is a fundamental issue. I have witnessed many practitioners who have spent years in seclusion, chanting millions of mantras, yet still battle with their inner demons. Some vow to benefit sentient beings, including parents, yet cannot even tolerate their relatives, wasting their precious lives in torment and calculation. Such individuals are not truly practicing, they are merely deceiving themselves. So this part becomes very direct and almost confronting, but also very honest. So, you know, many people spend years in retreat, in seclusion, and chant countless mantras, but yet they're still struggling inside, still trapped in the same emotional patterns, and so in reality they become judgmental, they hold on to resentment, and in doing so their life slowly becomes consumed by inner conflict. So I think this is where the message becomes very clear. Practice or self-cultivation is not what you say, it is not how long you sit, it is not how many words you repeat. It is whether you are changing, whether your heart is becoming lighter and more able to let go. Because without that, no matter what you do externally, it remains the same inside. So, if there is no real transformation, then it is not true practice. It is self-deception. Hello, yes. Um, Mr. Xuemo is a contemporary Chinese writer. Yes. And today we are talking about the topic, the aspiration in your life. And then I shared the related topic in the book, Reclaim the Throne of Your Heart. So let's continue the last paragraph of this talk. Strengthen your faith with the power of a secret vow. Okay, Master Tai Xu once composed a verse: look up to the Buddha and attain perfection in character. When a person attains perfection, the Buddha attains perfection. This is the true reality. This is indeed true. Without the cultivation of one's character, all efforts toward the transcendental Dharma are in vain. Understand that true cultivation is reflected in conduct. Without a manifestation of virtuous behavior, all spiritual meditation or practice is meaningless. Thus, in life, I first hold myself to the standard of being a good person. Only upon this foundation can we truly engage in the cultivation of the transcendental Dharma. So, as we come to the end of the sharing, I want to leave you with something simple. Your dream is not just something you think about, it is something you protect, it is something you live, and over time, it becomes the direction of your entire life. So, we talked about temptation tonight, but maybe the deep question is not how to resist it, it is whether your direction is strong enough. Because when your direction is clear, when your vow is real, when your heart is steady, you don't need to fight the world. You simply walk your own path. So that is what all of this comes down to. Whenever you are right now, whether things feel clear or uncertain, just take a moment to return to yourself and ask yourself one question. What is the one thing in my life that I'm truly willing to stay with? Okay, thank you for being here. Thank you for listening and for walking this path together. We will continue next time. See you next time in Xuemo community.